Hey everybody, John Peters again from the Main Street Business Alliance, and welcome to another episode of The Main Thing. And I needed to start today by saying everything I've ever built, I've built with the help of partners. I'm not a big fan of going at it alone and struggling and doing it. I always find that the best thing to do is find someone you can partner with and see how you can build things together. So today I'm really proud, happy, whatever other adjective I can use to introduce my newest partner, Matt Wells from the NJSBDC. We've put together a partnership with Fairleigh Dickinson University and the NJSBDC, and it's just really exciting. So Matt, do me a favor though, because there's a lot of letters and acronyms and all that stuff going around. Introduce yourself and tell everybody what it is.
Yeah, so we're complicated, so bear with me here. But my name is Matt Wells, and I run the SBDC at FDU. There's 11 other centers across the state of New Jersey, based at different institutions of higher learning. So we are a federal program through the SBA funded directly. So if you ever want to know where your taxpayer dollars are actually going to, they go to programs like us. So I don't want to hear it doesn't work, right? Okay, but we also have state partnerships with the NJBAC that help fund our program as well. Okay. And what we do is we provide no cost, free consulting to anybody looking to start or grow a business within our designated region. Right. So our center here, we cover Northwest New Jersey based out of Florham Park at FDU. And then FDU down here on the Metro campus. So Hackensack TNEC is kind of our area down here. And our job basically is clients come to us, they say, hey, I need to start a business, I need a business loan, I need a business plan, I need help doing a marketing plan, HR, whatever it may be. Right. And we have about 16 consultants at our center that are experts in different fields. So when a client comes in, depending on their need, we connect them with one of our expert consultants that gives them free consulting services through that. We do require homework from our clients, so they don't just come in, have a cup of coffee, hang out. You come in, say, here's my problem. The consultant says, okay, here's my recommendations. This is what we're going to do moving forward. Right. They'll work on something, you'll work on something for the next meeting. And that's pretty much how we move forward.
Well, so, and just to rewind a bit, we've got 375 businesses or so in our special improvement district in Hackensack, New Jersey. But this is a topic that really applies to Main Street USA, right? Yeah. So one of the things that I found for the past couple years now, walking up and down Main Street in Hackensack, is that there's a lot of small businesses, been there, done that, right? So I know the pain of having to make payroll on Friday, or the pain of paying everybody else first before you figure out if there's anything left for you, and trying to grow a business and promote it at the same time while you're operating it. But I noticed every small business really is always struggling at something. Yeah. Right? It's not like this is a unique, it's unique to this area. Nothing. It's small business. That's just the very nature of what it is. And it's everybody's doing everything. Everybody's pitching in. And that's the way it works. So when we would walk in and say, hey, we want to promote you, we'd say, okay, let's take a look at your website. Well, I don't have a website. I just haven't gotten around to it. Or how about social media? Well, I have a Facebook page where I tried it, didn't work. There were so many scenarios. So people started coming to us and saying, I need help. And there's one of me and one other person and a couple of interns. It's just not enough. Yeah. So when I was talking to you about this, we were talking about something else. We just sort of both went, you know what? And we were talking to Rob over at FDU, and it just morphed into this great thing. So we are going to be offering through you free consulting to all the businesses on Main Street, frankly, and in the area too, right? I'm looking at this going, this is the win-win-win all the way around.
Absolutely, yeah.
So right off the bat, our press release just went out yesterday around announcing this. And for me, it's one of the bigger press releases that we've sent out in the 2 years that I've been here. This is big. Federal funding for free consulting for our small businesses. But when you look at this, straight away off the bat, because you've been doing this for a while now, what do you think is going to be our biggest challenge?
One of the issues I think is helping businesses kind of modernize, right? They always seem to get stuck in the mom and pop mindset. And that's kind of our job, is to say, okay, where are you at? Where do you want to go? Have you thought about this? And helping clients try to figure out what the next step and the milestones are to get to their end strategic goal, whatever that may be. And I think that's kind of the hardest part with our job is usually when clients come in, they come in with, $1 million type of a question, and we break it down and put it through the filter and distill it, and all of a sudden they leave there with 20 more things they got to think about.
Right.
But that's kind of the biggest challenge is getting clients in a situation to start to really think about their business and where they want to go. I think, from I spent 15 years owning and operating a small business with my family too, and one of the main things we really focused on is it's showing up every day. You got a laundry list of things to do, but that's leading towards whatever that end goal is.
Right.
And I think small businesses tend to get in a mindset and trap where they just say, okay, I got to take care of this today.
Yeah, the daily to-do list.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's where we can break it down, because one thing all of our consultants are here is we're not emotionally attached to your idea. So by having conversations, interacting, being able to take questions from us, we can help you sort of develop what that next step may be.
Yeah. Well, it's fascinating because that plays right into one of the restaurants in our district said, "Hey, I need some help," and I went in and I've got a pretty critical eye. So when I walk in, I'm checking your bathroom.
Yep.
Right. I'm checking to see if there's any cobwebs anywhere in the corner. This place passed all those tests, really great. And I'm like, okay, what are you struggling with? It's like I'm not getting enough new customers.
Yeah.
So I said, well, you've got this type of restaurant. I think this will work really well. Went off, came back, developed a 8-10 page marketing plan, put it together, and I had another lunch meeting with her. And she was a bit of deer in the headlights. I'm like, it's okay. We'll break it down.
Yep.
And we'll do this.
Yep.
And then, frankly, I left, and I'm thinking, I don't think she's gonna call. I followed up once. She's busy. They get time crunch, right? Nothing, crickets. And I'm like, well, maybe it was too much. I didn't know. Well, sure enough, about 2 months later, I got a text says, I'm ready. Lunch tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it was a really good feeling. And she's started some new social. She's got some new videos going, really generating some good activity. And then some other people started calling. And that was right around the time that we started talking to you guys. And I'm like, there's just not enough of me to go around. So this is pretty awesome. So tell me though, tell me a bit about the consultants.
Yeah. So we have a pretty big list of consultants in different areas. So for some of our strategic, I guess, capabilities right now, we have people that can help you get a loan. If you need help, one of the hardest things for a loan is understanding what the bank's looking for. You can go in there and they say, oh yeah, we'll do a great deal. Here's our checklist. And then you get the checklist and go, what the hell do I do next, right?
Sure.
So we have consultants. I have one that spent 35 years in commercial lending. He's retired, but he can step you through and prepare you and have conversations to get you ready for when you go into the bank. When they start asking you those tough questions, you're already ready for it, right? We've got another consultant that's, she's incredible. She speaks, I think, 8 different languages. She's had 12 businesses internationally. She can help you if you're looking to do import exporting, if you're looking to get certified as a small business, as a women business, as a veteran, whatever it may be. We have areas of expertise with that. We have people that are great with SEO and e-commerce and marketing. So based on our consultant pool, some of them are very specialized. Myself, I've been doing this for well over a decade now. I'm a generalist, but I'm a generalist that can play in a lot of different areas. So depending on what a customer needs, we can definitely connect them with that. And we take a team approach with our clients when they come in. So if you come in, say you need financing, and all of a sudden you get a loan, your credit line, whatever it is, and 6 months down the road, you need help with marketing. Now we'll pass you off to a marketing consultant. So this isn't sort of an end all. The SBDCs, we're a nationwide organization. Our goals from the federal government are to be technical assistance providers. Okay. So you'll hear places like SCORE and things like that. They focus on mentorship, and that's fantastic. We are there for, okay, I need this now. What do we do, right? And then you go off and the business does their thing for a few months. They come back on the next project. That's our job.
I mean, it's so needed. And I guess when I look at some of them, so that the first lady I was talking about, I was like, okay, there's ways you can do direct mail just to right here. You don't have to go get the whole list. Yeah. Right? It's expensive. You don't have to do that, but you could get just the new residents in the area. You could get just the new residents in a particular area. There's a lot of things that you can do. Yeah. And her initial response was, I've done postcards. Those don't work. And I'm like, well, okay, let's talk about that. And it was like an 8-year-old thing. She did the buy everything, right? Yep. Didn't get any, there's no chance she was going to get a return on investment on that. Yeah. So part of what was interesting to me was the process that I had to help her go through to understand that she actually did need some help, right? Because the easy stuff of you've got a dirty bathroom. Well, there's another place I walked into and it's got a couple of chairs and a couch and some other stuff, and it was filthy. I'm like, well, sorry, you serve food in here. Yeah.
You're done, right?
We got to fix that.
Yeah.
Before we start talking about postcards and branding and all the rest of that stuff. Is that something that you guys see very often? People not understanding that they actually need the help, or is it by the time they get to you, they've already figured that out?
Typically, they come to us and they have one pressing need. And then after working with them, consulting, going to their business, breaking things down, you'll start to identify the other areas of need. And that's kind of our job with that. Is typically they've got their thing that they need, and all of a sudden they leave and they got 20 more things that they need to pay attention to. But that happens. You're in business. You've got a million things to do. Sometimes things fall by the wayside. And our job is to kind of be there and to support and mentor and ask questions. That's the biggest thing we do, is we ask questions and try to get you to a point to start to understand. We don't tell you, no, this is a bad idea. You're never going to get this. It's not going to work. But we try to lead you there to say, okay, here's some resources. Here's some things to think about. This is our opinion based on other clients. I like to use client stories a lot when I work with with my clients, because then they can really relate to, it's not just me saying this is what you should do or something. This has happened before. This is a good story to build from.
Okay, so that's a really great lead into my next question. So tell me your favorite success story or something. I mean, is there something that, is there a question that you're very often regularly asked, or an issue that you're presented with, where right away which case study you're going to rattle off? Is there anything like that's specific that comes to mind?
There's so many as far as just being able to correlate with that, but I will give you, so this was years ago. A bank reached out to us and said, we're going to foreclose in this restaurant. Can you help them? They've got 2 months and we're foreclosing. It was a good restaurant in a good part of town, right along the river. It was a bar and restaurant. It was a great location. Not many, lots of traffic, but not many competitors in the area, right? Go in there. It's a couple that's no longer were together, but they opened this business previously, and start looking at the numbers, and they're doing good revenues, but they're going to get foreclosed on. I'm sitting there going like, what the hell's going on? So I say, okay, let me see the books. Oh, we don't have any. I said, okay, can you give me anything? So we decided to focus on the restaurant because that was the biggest headache right now, and we'll get to the bar in the second one. So the two partners, one was on the bar and one was in the restaurant. They didn't really talk to each other anymore. So went to the guy that was managing the restaurant side, and he printed off probably like 100-foot long receipt from the last 3 years. So I went through there as all their sales, all their menu items, and really started charting this out. So the first thing we did was I took all of that, put it into a bunch of charts and graphs, and sat down with them and say, okay, you've got this massive menu, and here's the bell curve. Cut these off. You don't need them.
Yeah, sure.
That's the first thing, right? Then once we started to get, because their accountant had the numbers, they'd never looked at them. So then we got the numbers from the restaurant, and we're realizing they're over 70% cost on their food.
Right. Yeah.
And if you're above 30%, you're basically dead in the water, right?
Right? So
I'm going, what the hell's going on? So we start to break this down some more, start to have more conversations, and all of a sudden I'm like, this is not adding up. Something's wrong. And I said, do you have a chef? He said, yeah. Do you trust him? Yeah. Okay. Put up a camera and see what happens. The chef was running a catering business by taking all of their stock out when he left every night. He fired that chef, brought in a new one. All of a sudden, we got food costs down about 30%, and they're starting to move, right? Yeah. Okay, now we focus on the bar. The other partner didn't really want to change anything. We start looking at that. We pull the receipts again, look at all the drinks that have been sold, all these sorts of things, and they were charging $3 for a mixed drink. Start to think about this and going, okay, we're looking at the totals, the numbers, and they need to make their loan payment. And I said, you realize if you raise this to $3.25, you just made your loan payment each and every month for the rest of the year. Right. Oh, we can't do that. We'll alienate a couple of our old timers. It's just like, okay, are you willing to lose your house over a couple of people that buy?
Yeah. And by the way, you can come up with an old timer special or something like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And also now they started talking to each other, the two owners, right? So they started to see this. They started to put things in place. What I left them with was, okay, here is your dashboard of metrics you need to be following every day. Forget the rest of the numbers for right now. This is what you pay attention to, and this is what you pay attention to. They're still in business. This was about 9-10 years ago.
Right, sure.
They're doing great, and the same owners, and they were able to turn that business around. And that's the sort of the thing that we can do that when owners get into the area of despair, right? They don't know what to do. We can give them that direction. And if they listen and apply the things we try to assist them with, all of a sudden that can make a massive change in that. Yeah. And all they needed was just a swift kick in the butt and someone to tell them, here's what you got to do.
Yeah, and it's someone from the outside, right? You've got no allegiance to either partner or anything to that effect. That the whole, I don't know. There was another company that I visited, honestly, not in our district. Somebody asked me for help someplace else, and I walked in and I said, "Well, this is pretty cool. Like, it's neat. You have a lot of different types of products here. What do you think is going to be the biggest seller? Because they're just opening." It's like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what do you think? Tell me about your market. It's like, well, it's here. I'm like, what's here?
Yeah.
Like, who do you think's going to come buy from you? He's like, all the people. Like, which people? And I start talking about a business plan, and I said, hey, do me a favor, send me. They were selling items, and then they were selling some repairs. They were doing repairs. So I'm like, send me a pie chart. Couldn't really do it. It's like, I have no idea. So, and I'm not saying everything's got to be like this big corporate business plan, right? For heaven's sake. But when someone says, how many of these widgets do you need to sell to cover the rent?
Yeah, you need to know that.
That's pretty much about the first question you need to be able to answer.
Yeah.
And which is why I'm so excited about this partnership, because we can unleash all these people in this one area. And again, this works for anywhere. You could be downtown USA somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got all those other locations and a bunch of other partnerships, I'm sure.
Yep.
And we're really excited, especially with how Fairleigh Dickinson University is involved, full disclosure, alumni, that when we start talking about things like social media and some really cool ideas up and coming, and God forbid the student view, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a whole different.
Yes.
I've done some projects with FDU where I'm walking up and down Main Street with students, and I would look at this, like all proud, and they're like, like I wouldn't, I don't know that I would go in there.
Yeah.
Or then we walked into some other place that was just local for me, but I wasn't one of my favorite spots. And they're like, this place is awesome, right? It's a whole different view. So bringing that full circle, the students are involved too, right? The graduate and potentially some undergraduate students on particular projects.
Yeah. So I got into the SBDC world by taking a class with my former director. He taught a business consulting class. I took it as an undergrad and then came back, took it in graduate school. After that, he brought me in as a student intern. So I started in there doing on some projects with that. Once I finished grad school, he hired me as a consultant and we were off and running.
Right.
That's how I got to where I am, and that's where I learned so much. Like, my traditional education was fantastic, but there's so much you don't learn in the classroom, right? And that's when I was able to bring my skills and abilities I learned inside my business into helping consultants move forward. And that's a big part. I want students in there. We usually have 2 to 3 students at some given point, either graduate assistant working on projects or in a class project for the semester. But yeah, we try to integrate students because it's the stuff they won't learn in class. They'll never learn in class.
Right.
It's the emotional side, and usually they're working on case studies for some massive corporation.
Right, sure.
But all of a sudden you got somebody sitting across from you at a table that's crying because they can't meet their rent. That brings it in full perspective for these kids.
Real. It's the real deal.
Yeah.
That's something I promise all my interns from Fairleigh. I'm like, this is not going to be busy work.
Yeah.
Like, this is real people with
resume building.
Yeah.
Immersive
You're going to.
opportunities.
And I said that my goal is to make sure that when you leave, you've got 10 or 20 bullet points for LinkedIn that you could talk about extensively.
Exactly.
And that leads to, they're like, well, what kind of things are we going to be working on? And I'm like, well, people are either knowingly or unknowingly making mistakes, right? So there's some pretty common mistakes. What do you feel are some of the most common mistakes in small business?
Obviously, cash flow, you need that. Mismanaging cash flow, underestimating what it's going to cost to start up or run or expand or whatever it is, not having access when you need it or when opportunity presents itself. Oftentimes, businesses will get open, they'll get a loan maybe to start or invest it, but they won't have any relationship with their bank. They won't have a credit line lined up. So if that opportunity shows up, you can't produce. Right. Yeah. Right. It's thinking about longer term. So cash is pretty much the king with anything. But secondary, I think a lot of businesses look at marketing as too soft of a skill. And it's something, maybe we'll get to that posting content later, but not understanding if you don't intimately know your customer, you can't sell to them. Because you don't know what to say, you don't know how to approach them, you don't know those sorts of things. So we push our clients quite a bit on really understanding your core customers. Because once you develop that, sales becomes fairly easy when you know who you're selling to, what they're going to react to, what value points you're pushing as far as the sale. That's really important. And I think a lot of small businesses, they're worried about the money, they're worried about their employees, their payroll, their peace
all
of
the
mind.
stuff that they're worried about, right? During the day.
And marketing takes a back seat.
So what's when you say that, it brings to mind. So when my first year at the Main Street Business Alliance, I said, hey, I'm going to do a trend report, and I'm going to survey tons of people. And the first response I got from most people, like, nobody fills out surveys. They're not going to do it. People don't do it. I'm like, no, I've done this before, once or 1,000 times. I'm pretty sure I can get people to answer. Sure enough, I don't know, a few weeks in, we had 1,400 responses, which is statistically viable. Scraped out some of the nonsense, and came up with a really cool survey of things. And the whole theme was, what do you want to see on Main Street? And of course, a lot of people said, well, this is great. What are we doing with it? I'm like, I promise you, within a very short amount of time, we're going to announce it, and you're going to see how people are going to come and ask for it. And sure enough, a bunch of really savvy small business owners came and said, so did they tell you what they like to eat? Did people tell you? And the ones that didn't ask for it, when I presented it to them, someone was considering a type of entertainment place. I'm like, 59% of the people here, whatever the number was at that point, want some place to hang out where they can get something to eat, but not feel like they want to sit down in a restaurant to order a meal. They just want a place to hang.
Yeah.
They want a place to hang out. They want a place to chill. So that whole concept of data, I find is pretty, I don't want to say elusive. Like, they know they need it, right? But they don't really know how to go about getting it. So, we do things like walk in and go, well, where's your sign-up sheet? Like, tell me about your mailing list. I don't have one. How do you not have a mailing list? You have this really cool POS system. Another story entirely. What information is it giving you? Like, I think, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of bells and whistles in here. I'm not really sure because they are busy. It's not like they don't want to do it. They're busy with trying to eat.
Yeah.
Really, at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
So I'm excited about all those types of things because, I just mentioned POS. There's guys walking up and down the street that I didn't appreciate that were giving away free POSs. And I walked into one of them, and he's like, oh, we're giving out free POSs. I'm like, well, what do you charge? It's like, well, no, but all the equipment's free. I'm like, yeah, well, what do you charge?
Yeah.
So I think this is the kind of information that we can get to the right people at the right time, maybe before they make that decision.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the process so that people understand what the process is. So we came up with downtownhackensack.org / we're calling this the Hackensack Success Hub, and that's what you type in. And that brings you just to an overall page that describes the program, right? And then there's a link, and that link takes you over to your site. And we say, hey, go here. First of all, check for eligibility, and walk me through that process, because I know I want to make sure that everybody understands it.
Yeah, so because we're funded through the SBA, yearly we gather all of our data as far as our metrics and outcomes. No client information goes with that, but then we send that down to Washington so they can say, look what's happening, and this is why we're going to keep the money flowing, right? So you can keep doing this. So basically we take an intake form. It's very basic, some demographic information. We got to make sure you're in New Jersey because we are a New Jersey-based program, those sorts of things. If you happen to be on some government blacklist, our services can't help you.
Right.
Anything dealing with the cannabis industry right now, until that gets rescheduled at the federal level, we can't assist with, but anything else we're pretty much wide open to help anybody with. So basically you fill out the intake form, you fill out a little line that says this is what I'm requesting assistance with. If we need more information, we'll reach out to you. Otherwise, we usually connect you directly with a consultant because most people put enough information with that, and then you're off and running, and a consultant will reach out, schedule an initial session.
Which they could do at our place.
You can
in our joint office
Yes,
now, right?
yes.
Or virtually if they have to, right?
Yeah. Some of our consultants are across the state, so they're still virtual.
Okay.
But you can meet in our office in Florham. You can meet us down here when we're in the office at your place,
Right.
Or we can do it over the phone or Zoom. A lot of things have shifted with COVID that most of our clients still don't want to meet in person, but we can assist you anywhere.
And at hours that are convenient. guess.
Yeah,
Relative to everything.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
You
obviously
can't say at 2:00 in the morning, but
yeah, but our consultants know that, you know, some of them work weekends, late nights. They're on their own kind of schedule. The office hours are office hours, and we staff that. But for the consulting side, they can base that around your schedule. Please be, you know, respectful on some of those
Sure.
things if you're coming in. But yeah, they can definitely assist with that.
okay, so I'm ABC Restaurant, and I fill this out. I'm eligible, and someone calls me. We set up an appointment. They help me with something. I'm never getting a bill for this service.
No.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, right?
Yeah. All we ask is we send out surveys occasionally so we can understand, you know, was the consultant, did you receive the services you need? And then, like I said, we track our metrics. So if you were to open a business, become certified, get a loan, we need you to fill out this form so we can help keep these services for free.
Right.
That's it. And as long as you're meeting the outcomes and the next steps for homework, we'll meet with you
okay.
forever.
So I mean that's okay. So that's an important. I don't even want to call it a caveat. That's not a caveat.
No.
I mean that's. I don't even know what to call that. That's so unbelievably necessary. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
So I'm going to come in and I'm going to give you some things that you need to work on so that I can help you.
Yeah.
If I show up on Tuesday at 2, just like you said, and you've got nothing done.
Yeah.
I can't help you. Maybe I give you a pass that day because something happened,
Yeah.
and then you do it again and nothing's done.
Yeah.
No, after a while, like listen.
Yeah.
I can't keep helping you.
Exactly.
Because you don't want help, really.
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, that person may be a good candidate for SCORE because they're on the mentorship and they can put hours and hours into clients like that.
Right.
We're on a different grant
Right.
with the federal government, so that impacts kind of what we do. But a lot of the times, you know, if someone comes in wants to buy a franchise and they don't have the franchise agreement, we'll tell them go get the franchise agreement. If they never get it, we can't move forward with them as a client, right? So
Right.
we give out that homework. They do something. We usually do something to help support what they're doing, and then when they're ready, it's that next step. It's that buy-in from both sides with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I love about this thing that we're working on is that we can all do this together, right? And help people, which I think is the biggest challenge is for them to understand the priorities.
Yeah.
Right. So they'll come in and say, "Oh, talk marketing." Well, you can't cover the rent next month.
That's what we're paying attention to.
We got to maybe
right now.
focus
Yeah.
on that for right now, right? I'm happy to help you fix a new logo, but that's not where your attention should be right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. Is there, what do you think the biggest myth is with all of this? Is there anything that you think people will look at this and think of something straight away in their head, but that's not the case? Is there something that you need to overcome almost in every phone call? Or is it for me, I would imagine it was like this is free. Like we've been all raised now to say that there's nothing free, right? Is that the biggest myth that you think is out there?
I think, honestly, the biggest myth is everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. They want to be their own boss. They want to make a lot of money and not have to answer to anybody, right?
Yeah. Let's have a coffee. I'll tell you about that.
Yeah.
Right.
But I don't think a lot of people, one, they don't have the drive to get there. That's the big thing. We meet with a client, usually you can tell the first 15 minutes, like, am I ever going to see this person again?
Right.
Because our intake sessions are a little rough. We put you through the ringer. We ask a lot of questions because we want to make sure you're prepared for what you're planning to do.
Right.
If you want to start a business, have you thought about what this is going to do to your family, to your time, to
Sure.
these sorts of things? So I think that's maybe one of the biggest myths is anybody can jump in this, which is true, but you got to have the fire and the passion, and then you have to have some sort of an idea that you can take to market, and then there's a market for it.
Yeah. No, so I've seen that. I've seen people kind of wishy-washy, like, what kind of available spaces do you have on Main Street?
Yeah.
Well, how much do you need? I don't know.
Yeah.
1,000 feet? They're like, maybe. I know that then they point to a spot that they see is vacant. And I'm like, that's like 3,500 square feet.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, okay. I'm like, well, wait a minute. This right? It just, it doesn't work that way. And as far as understanding of when you say, they need to understand what it's going to take. So, when someone comes to me, because we have grants, we have storefront facade and improvement grants, and they're like, well, how quickly can I get it? How quickly can I get it? And especially when you start talking about county grants and state grants and whatever other, some of these are, we'll see you in 8 months with a check. And by the way, they're reimbursement grants. You're not getting the money up front. So I find that that's probably one of the larger misconceptions out there that, well, first of all, the misconception is there's no grant that can help me. And yes, there is. There's,
They're very specific,
but they can help you.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the second one is, let me just, I'm here Monday. When do I get the check on Tuesday?
Yeah.
Right. So That's what I love about, again, to bring it back full circle, to bring it back to what we're working on. It's a team approach. We'll help them prioritize. We'll say, hey, these are the things you should be working on first. So I'm glad you came in for that, but maybe we ought to look at this over here first. And then here's the priority list. Work it all together. By the way, it's a women-owned business. Are you a registered women-owned business? And I've had response like, I didn't know you could do that. Well, yeah. Or you're a minority-owned business. Are you a minority, registered as minority-owned business? I didn't know you could do that. Well, yeah, you can. And by the way, you're a minority women-owned business?
Yeah, and it takes like 20 minutes, so let's do it.
Yeah, let's do this. Cool. So let's talk about marketing a second, because that's where I spend a lot of my time, just trying to get everybody to understand. We have to do some things to get awareness. Awareness is good, but we have to solve people's problems. We have to, stop with this big, just shoving your logo out there and thinking everybody's going to come running to you, right? Because what are you seeing as far as some of the biggest marketing mistakes people are making? I mean, I've got a laundry list, but I'm curious to see what you think.
Oftentimes, I think people are too scared because they don't really understand social media, content, all that other stuff. So what they'll do is they'll make a bunch of accounts on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all this thing, put the same message out there for a month and go, it didn't work. I'm done. This isn't going to work. Or they'll dump $10,000 into Google AdWords and say, nobody came about my stuff.
Sure.
I've seen that happen. I mean, I think that's the biggest misconception of, like, it's a tool, but you have to know how to use it. And you have to develop strategies on using it, not just throw some money to thing and all these customers are going to walk in the door. It's not how it works. It's never worked that way. I think it's social media, the internet has really become a crutch to complain against not pushing it all the way you need to for the marketing side.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I think we see that often, that they set up a website and it doesn't work, or they don't know how to change it. They pay somebody $10,000 to develop a website. Now they can't change their hours of operation when they need to, and it's like, you just started the business. Why are you spending $10,000 on a website? You could have put one on Wix for a Sunday afternoon and had something basic just to get started.
Yeah, by the way, we could have found somebody to come and take some halfway decent pictures for you instead of this.
There's so many tools that exist, and people just don't want to spend the time to spend 5-10 minutes to figure them out. Think something simple. It used to be Google Places, now it's Google My Business, right? But the amount of businesses that are not listed in their proper category on those is insane. I had a client that had a wedding venue years ago, and they were listed as like a seafood supplier. And they're like, why is nobody finding us? I'm like, you need to be on here, because what are brides doing? They're typing in wedding venues and looking at the map, right? That's the first thing they probably do once you get engaged, right? And they weren't on there. And it's just simple things like that people just aren't doing audits of themselves and understanding, or they're creating content that doesn't mean anything. Motivational Mondays, I hate those. I'll let my students do that on our student-facing Instagram page for the center, right? But a business that doesn't correlate to anything you're doing unless you're a nonprofit doing something along those lines, right? It's just understanding what tools to use, and then spending a little bit of time to just get fluent enough to get some data out of it.
Frankly, know where to look. We recently took a vacation, so I stopped in Colorado to see some family, and they said, meet us at this restaurant. It's really great. It's a great restaurant. So, me, I didn't write down where I was supposed to go. I just remember the name, so I knew. I Googled it, I looked it up, and I'm like, wow, first review is like horrific. But I'm like, it's my cousin, so I'm going. So we go. It was actually really good. And she goes, yeah, I know the owner. Owner's a friend of mine. Talk to the owner. I'm like, you don't have a lot of reviews. She's like, I don't know how to get reviews. Like, who reads those anyway? I go, everybody. She's like, and I go, you have some bad ones. She's like, I don't have. She goes, and right away she was amazingly insulted. And I'm like, listen, don't shoot the messenger here. I'm just here to tell you that with a little bit of effort, not a lot of bit of effort, with a little bit of effort, you could do really well with getting some new reviews. And by the way, I see that review is like 3 years old. But because people keep clicking it, just to read it, it's getting played. It won't go down. Here's a strategy that we can try and push that down, right? But she had no idea. Like
simple self-audits of your business. You should be doing that. You should be seeing what people are saying about you, where you're listed. Are you connected with the website maybe you don't want to be associated with? Those sorts of things make an impact on how customers view you as a business.
And then we have then we have businesses in our district who are all over the reviews. I mean, they've got a whole process and a whole system, and And we're just coming out with a whole new program too to help people get more reviews. It's I think maybe sometimes they're too close to it, right? They just, especially when they look at a website, they go, oh, someone will say, oh, my son built that for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's great.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, but it maybe needs a refresh. Because your son built it when he was in high school. He's now, celebrating his third child or whatever it is, right? It's
time for a refresh.
It's time.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you love pictures in your menus, but it's 14 pages of pictures. I mean, let's talk about how we might modernize this.
Yeah. And I think another part too is a lot of businesses don't look at their marketing from their customers' perspective. They push it from what they think their customers need to see or know, right? So they're not ever looking at things of like, how is this person that I'm potentially going to sell to looking at all this? And that stuff makes a difference.
Yeah.
When you get yourself out of the equation and do everything from your customer's perspective, that will change how you view your interactions with that customer.
It's just different lens. I always tell people, take your personal lens off and put X person's lens on. The person who bought from you, the person who hasn't bought from you. Just put different lenses on. What are those things? What are the way they're looking at you?
Yeah.
And it's amazing. A lot of times it's the basics that they're not getting right. Right? A restaurant with really great food.
Yeah.
There's something that swings open on the little swing door to go to the kitchen, and it's all dirty on the wall where it keeps hitting.
Yeah.
Like people see that.
Yeah. Yeah, and the small things make massive differences.
Yeah.
And I think people look at marketing as this massive, big expense they got to put all this money into, and it's the small things that make a difference. And I think that's where a lot of small businesses kind of fall short.
Yeah. So, do you think that the people that will take advantage of this, or the people that do take advantage of it, you think most of them are coming feeling stuck? Like, are they feeling stuck, or are they?
Yeah.
They are, right?
Yeah, they're stuck. They're frustrated. They may not know what that next step is. They just know they have to do it, but they have no clue. They need just direction, right? And they need someone to. There's the path. You're going down this, but I'll be around to kind of keep pushing you as you get stuck along the way.
Okay, so then time out. Short PSA, right?
Yeah.
So if you're feeling stuck, and I'll say this to the camera, if you're feeling stuck, you're not alone. There's things you can do, and this particular program, if you happen to be an RA, and if not,
Find your other center. It's close by.
Right. This is an amazing resource. It is everything you ever wanted, but we're afraid to ask. Right. So they'll get the help they need.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we have experience in so many different areas.
Right.
I've lived and breathed and done it. I've built 2 retail stores with my own hands.
Right.
I've been electrocuted trying to do it myself. So we've been there. We've done that. We can share our experiences, and especially if you've been in the network long enough and done this for long, I've seen thousands upon thousands of people trying to start businesses in almost every industry on earth. We've seen a lot of the things you're looking into and have that experience that we can help guide you through it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I often try and, we're in New Jersey. I'm from Jersey. We tend to be a little blunt, right, at times. And I'm always trying to temper my initial reaction to some things. And we'll have someone that comes and says, I'm thinking about a coffee shop. I'm like, we've got like 11 coffee shops here. It's a long main street, by the way. We can support them.
Yeah.
But we're at about our limit. So what's making you think that this is a really good place for that? Like, well, look at them. They're all doing really well. I'm like, okay, that doesn't mean that you're going to do really well.
Yeah.
Just because they're doing well. That's not how it works. And tell me about your experience. I'm like, I love coffee, right? So it's that process, that first initial sniff test, that first initial thing. I think can really help people try and get a better grasp on what this is going to take.
Yeah,
and I tend to use the startup term of how much runway do you have, but how much money you have in the bank, how much gas you have in the tank, because this is not a 2-month, 3-month effort. By the time you get in there, and by the time the first couple dollars start trickling in, you've got to really understand this is a long haul, right?
Yep.
I love the guys that come in and say, hey, I'm going to operate this business. I'm going to do it. I'm passionate about it. I'm educated on it. I'm keeping my full-time job for a while until I get this under control. And I'm going to work my tail off 20 hours a day doing it because that's what it takes. But at least I know I'm not getting evicted
Yeah.
from home, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so finally, imagine we're talking to a room full of small business owners. When we say, "Are you struggling?" only a third of them raise their hand, but really they're all there because they're struggling, right?
Yeah.
What do we say to them? What do we say? Hey, this is why you need to take this first step. This is truly like put everything out. And it'll be a repeat of what we've spoken about now for the past however long. But what do we say to those people?
I think sometimes it's just reigniting that fire. Like they got into this for a reason. Maybe it's to make money. Maybe it's to support their family, get their kids into college. Maybe it's to pass something on later down the road. Maybe it's just a hobby to keep busy, whatever it is. And I think when businesses struggle, they lose that fire pretty quick. They feel like they're alone, and the amount of resources like us and other programs that exist for that, the amount of resources that you can get for free online. You know, we talked about the mailers earlier.
Yeah.
They're all pulling from a free database that
Sure.
you just have to have a library card, and you can access
Yeah.
the same information for no cost. It just takes you a little bit of time to learn the system. There's all this stuff out there, and I think sometimes that business owners, when they feel frustrated and stuck, they just need somebody to say, you can do it, and these are the steps to do it. Because the fire was there to get started.
Right.
And sometimes because they don't have time of the day, they don't have the capacity, maybe they just don't know certain things that they don't know.
Sure.
But that's kind of our job, and that's what I think, you know, in front of business owners that are stuck, that's what they need. They need someone there to say, I've been there, I know this, here's the next steps.
Right.
And let them take it from there.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm glad you mentioned the library because I always like to plug them, if you will, wherever I can. We've got an award-winning library in Hackensack. The Johnson Public Library is awesome. The resources they have pretty much for everything is amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, what does that cost? Like, it costs a library card. You need a library card
Yeah, that's it.
to get access to this. And I'm
That's
like,
it.
this is really awesome, right?
Yeah, use your library. It's the best resource with this. The Census Bureau, there's a thing called the Census Business Builder. It's a GIS map. It pulls data from every department within the federal government. You can go down by block and see which block you should go and hand out flyers or knock on doors or
Right.
put your targeted in this zip code. There's so many resources out there for free that they're steep learning curves. They take a while to get used to, but they're the same thing that person's charging you $10,000 a month to do your marketing.
Okay, and it's the same thing that we'll be able to
Yes.
guide you
Yeah.
down here, right?
Yeah.
So, because when you say, well, there's so many other resources, I'm thinking, okay, I don't know where to start. I don't
Yeah.
have time. I gotta go pick up the supplies
Yeah.
for the restaurant.
Yeah.
Okay, just let's do this. We'll show you how to get there. We'll
Yeah.
help you do it. We'll help you every step of the way.
Yep.
So, Matt, thank you very much. I am so phenomenally excited about this partnership. I can't tell you because I see that it's so needed. And not because people are flailing, but because they just need that extra push. They need something. Some of them need a good swift kick in the butt. Some of them need some redirection. Some of them need marketing help. But with this program, we're going to be able to offer all that to all of these small businesses in the area. So thank you. And you'll be back, I know. And the next time you're back, we're going to be talking about a success story that we had. That's what I'm looking for.
Love it.
So thank you very much. Listen, if you've enjoyed this podcast, I ask you to please like, subscribe, and share. That's how we can keep doing this for you. I'd very much appreciate it. And you know, full plug, my book is now available on Amazon, and it's called Marketing on Main Street, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and a whole bunch of other places. But take a look at it. It's for the small business person on Main Street, USA. So folks, thanks very much, and we'll see you next episode.